Good morning, everyone. So, we are at the beginning of our event for the day. The task of leadership is not to put greatness into people, but to elicit it for the greatness that is already there. Good morning to one and all present here. I am Shambhavi Singh from MPharm MBA first year.
And I'm Karthi Tiwari from MPharm MBA second year.
We are the hosts for the session today. Leadership and responsibility go hand in hand. The more you prosper, the tougher the going gets. And what keeps the fire burning is the point on achieving the dream that only you and no one else can see and envision. A question still to ponder is what leadership is and what does a learner have the most in his backyard. So let us find out that from our today's guest.
Today, we would like to warmly welcome our guest for today's session, Mr. Ramesh Bhat, sir, who is the Vice Chancellor of SVKM's NMIMS. He has in total 4 decades of teaching, research, consulting, and administrative experience, and has served as Executive Chairman of WOne Management Systems, a co-founded company, along with as an advisor to the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Along with his academic responsibilities, he is currently a board member of Basic Healthcare, a non-profit organization dedicated for improving health in rural areas. A very good morning, sir. And before we begin our conversation, I would like to introduce our director, sir, Dr. Akshay Malhotra, and request sir to say a few words before we start.
A very good morning to all of you, and a warm welcome to the 27th edition of Saturday 10 a.m. at NMIMS. Now, as the name itself suggests, it's a weekly event. But I would say it's much more than a weekly event. It's a promise, it's a commitment made by students of NMIMS Shirpur that every Saturday at 10 a.m. we are going to be having an interesting discussion with an interesting speaker, and we are going to be sharing it with the rest of the world. Now the question is, why do we do this? Why have we taken this upon ourselves? Let me share that answer with you. So at NMIMS Shirpur, we strongly believe that it is our job to prepare our students not only for the first job interview that they'll be facing 3 years from now, 4 years from now, depending on the course you are taking, but preparing you for that job interview 10 years from now, 15 years from now, for a job profile which doesn't even exist right now, which you can't even probably imagine right now. Now, you very well might ask me, how do you do that? We do that by preparing our students for life. How does one do that? You get a lot of knowledge by books, lectures, practicals, tutorials, and everything. But we really believe that when it comes to wisdom, you get that through experience. And while there are some mistakes, I firmly believe that you have to make yourself in life. There is just no substitute. But there is so much you get to learn from this journey of others. So that is the spirit with which we host Saturday 10 a.m. at NMIMS Shirpur every weekend. With that being said, let me extend a very warm welcome to today's guest, Dr. Ramesh Bhat. In fact, let me correct myself. I should not be even using the word guest. He is our very own Vice Chancellor. And instead of saying he is our very own, I think the correct term would be that we are his own, actually. And you guys read out his very impressive profile. But I think from what I have known about seeing the person in meetings during the course of my last 1 year over here, and even one-to-one meetings, is you're going to see much more than that today. You're going to see someone who's a faculty at heart first, who's always thinking of and inspiring us every day, how can we better reach through to the students. Actually, even there's something you're going to see even before that comes, even before being a faculty. And I'm very confident of that. You guys are today going to see someone who is a lifelong learner. I would say even being a faculty comes, later. So in fact, He's the one who's inspiring us, guys. I've not seen actually a 21-year-old being so excited and talking so much about metaverse as I've seen Dr. Bhatt speak about it, right? So I hope you guys do ask him about how does he do it? How does he actually become? How has sustained himself to become a lifelong learner? I'm sure we are going to have a fantastic show ahead, and in the next 1 hour, we are going to be seeing not only the vision but also the spirit in which this university is being led right now. So with that, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Bhatt, and over to you guys. This is a show that we have been waiting for a long time, and I'm sure we are in for a very exciting 1 hour ahead. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with all of you and first of all, I think I must congratulate all of you, particularly the students, organizing this very interesting and very enriching talk every Saturday. I think it's wonderful actually to have this kind of a dialogue, deliberations, discussions, and getting a lot of insights on regular basis. I think it certainly helps us to enrich our learning. Great to be here.
So before dawning into some questions, sir, I would love to know how has your day been going so far?
Yeah, so the day started well. Catched up with some news on the what is happening on the Ukraine front. Listen couple of I think insightful talk on the sanctions on Russia. Particularly heard the beautiful discussion by Fareed Zakaria this morning from CNN on this thing while driving from home to my office. So I think so far it's going well actually.
So I am pretty sure that the questions and the conversation we'll have today is going to make it more amazing. So, sir, considering the vast experience you have had in the education sector has undergone tremendous changes throughout the years. What are the major changes you think that have taken place in the education system in the recent few years?
Yeah, I think significant changes over the years, but the most dominant and particular one I see that availability of and access to, I think, the many domains of knowledge today. You see, when I grew up, I think at that time I had only 3 choices to make, either to go in commerce, engineering or medicine, right? So today if you look at the kind of options available, I think there are a large number, right? And within each discipline, I think the super specializations have also become very significant. Like NMIMS University has 19 schools which cater to the 19 different domains, right? Start from the management, which has been the dominant one for several years, but in the recent past we have liberal arts, we have architecture, we have law, we have pharmacy, we have the performing arts, we have the pharmacy, engineering, mathematics, statistics, analytics. So I think these are the kind of choices which the students have get today, which I think in my view has broadened the horizon, and I think it's a very optimal way. How do you use the different parts of intelligence in the students actually, because every student may not be tuned to do commerce or engineering or medicine, but a large number of students will be perhaps looking for the liberal arts education or performing arts or architecture or design. Now these were the kind of options which were not available in my days actually. And today I think you are the privileged one today to have these options available. So I think that I see as one of the major change. The access and the opportunities, options have increased considerably. And I think the second development is the institutions, particularly from both public sector and private sector, coming forward and providing these educations in these domains. Actually, that is another significant growth which I see happening over a period of time. And I think the third one, I would like to say that gradually I think we are also seeing a lot of change at the policy front from the government side. Now it is the government which is also now encouraging a lot of new initiatives, innovative ways of dealing with things. Say primarily focusing on the access, quality, accountability in the system. So though we had the initial policies in the past, but I think the last new education policy 2020 of the Government of India has put before us a very aspirational kind of an agenda, and I think it is now our duty to see that we are able to implement that actually, and that's, I think, we are going forward. The one thing I am a little bit disappointed, the change which I was thinking will happen in particularly in India, which has not happened, is the teaching becoming as an aspirational profession. Like say, I do not know how many of you aspire to be the teacher in the long run, but I think it is a fantastic profession, it's a great profession. Somehow I think we have not been able to position the teaching profession at the same level as the maybe corporate jobs or other jobs which I think the students aspire for. So I'm sure that I think going forward, my goal, and I am telling everybody that every time I go to class and talk to the students, at least 10% of the students should say that, yeah, I want to get into the teaching profession. I think the day we see a class, maybe 5% or 10% students aspiring for the teaching profession, you will see a remarkable change in the teaching and the education of our country. Unfortunately, today nobody aspires to be a teacher. And therefore the best one do not come to this profession. Saying that, I do not mean that the people who are there are not the best. They are perhaps the best one, and from the core of their heart they are, I think, devoting their life to this profession. But I think at a very young age, when you talk to when I used to speak to my children what you would like to be, they will never say that we would like to be the teacher. I wish that every class has 5 or 10% students aspiring to be the world-class teachers actually. You see, we have a lot of Indians who are in US and in academic profession, right? Brilliant ones. Amrita Sen, Raghuram Rajan, they all studied in India and became the teachers in US. We do not see the similar kind of a thing in India happening. We do not see the brilliant ones who excel in their education coming to the education field. It used to happen. If you watch this serial called Rocket Boys, you will find that the Nobel laureate Ramanna, Homi Baba, and Vikram Sarabhai, they devoted initial parts of their life to the teaching academics, and they were the brilliant ones. But I think somewhere India lost that touch with the very good people not coming to the academics, and that is, I think, one disappointment I have. But I'm sure that I think going forward in future, perhaps we will see that change as well.
Surely, yes, I believe that this change is something that we would like to see coming in the future. But one thing that I completely agree to you, and me and my dad just had a conversation last evening about a point that you made right now about honing new skills. I would say to completely update ourselves with everything that's happening and to be updated with our hobbies so that we can maybe try something new in the future. So, sir, right now it is very important for updating our skills and learning new techniques and all of that.
So, sir, with all the changes that are there, where we are headed with these changes, there are multiple
Just
options.
give me a minute. Yeah. Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No problem, sir. Sir, I was just asking that being continuously updated with new skills and techniques that are there upcoming in the future, uh, what do you think is important? What is your opinion about being a self-directed learner? How important do you feel that we should be having the command of the boat? How important do you feel that we should be having knowledge apart from the curriculum, apart from what is taught in the college, in the classrooms?
Yeah, I think the way the things are shaping up in our lives, actually, I feel that uh, in today's world, everyone has to become a learner, actually. See, uh, getting basic education, and whenever we do the undergraduate or postgraduate studies, I think it's the beginning of the life. And one of the things which we need to really learn is that how to keep on learning, actually. And therefore, I think one of the things all of us has to really start how to become the self-directed learner, actually, because we will not have the teachers and professor every time with us. So we have to really carve out our ways to become the self-directed learners throughout our life, which means that it's a process of learning, unlearning, and relearning all the time, actually. And one has to really, uh, I always tell my students and my colleagues that we are never a finished product, actually. We are always work in progress. So, and I think the way I look at my life is also that I never say that I have now completely uh, done everything rightly or so. I always say that whatever work we are doing, it is always work in progress. And keep on excelling in future. So for that, it is very important to keep on becoming the self-directed learners. So one of the things is that I think everyone, to become self-directed learner, it is very important to have the kind of an mission in life, that what one would like to become. I think basically focusing on the purpose, because you can't say that I am a self-directed learner without any purpose. Self-directed learner without purpose will have no meaning. So you need to have the purpose, and then you need to really focus on that developing the uh, remaining child all the time, actually, which means that remaining the uh, child all the time means that being curious all the time. Curiosity is the, I think, the essence of the knowledge creation and learning in life. So it's important to have the purpose, and with the kind of an habit or attitude of always being curious about the things, remaining all the time child actually, what is happening, asking the questions of what, how and why. I think these are something very critical in life to become the self-directed learner. And one has to always, I think, make sure that because there are too many what you may call the diversions or incentives to divert any time in different directions or different ways because of the kind of an mobile phone availability and the kind of apps are there which are, I think, designed to keep on taking your attention and diverting you from your focus actually, because it's their job to make sure that they take your attention, they draw your attention, and it is their mission that they will create everything to make sure that you deviate from your focus actually, because if you remain focused, it is not in their interest. So I think therefore it's very important that how do we handle this whatever information is coming to us, how do we screen that information, what to focus on and what to look for in terms of the knowledge creation. So it has to be very dedicated, focused, purposeful approach in life. Only then I think one can succeed actually.
Somehow, sir, searching for one question or one doubt genuinely turns up into shuffling between 3 social media apps.
Yeah, exactly right. So one has to really be very careful actually, because I think the way what you call this is the exponential technology penetrating in our life and in some exponential manner, and without, I think, many times the children and students at very young age, without understanding the implication and the consequences, it can have very unintended impacts. So it's very important for all of us to sit down, discuss, debate, and to see that how we can reduce these unintended consequences. It has a lot of positive side. We need to harness the positive part of it, but I think there are many threatening consequences of what is happening. We have to be very careful about that, and that can come only through education, a lot of cognitively looking at things in a very different manner actually. So that's, I think, we have to be very careful, and I think in this environment, particularly last 2 years when it has been COVID, we were cut off from the human interactions. These habits would have gone deep into our psyche. So we need to really maybe introspect that are we on the correct path. So, and I'm sure that this kind of a discussion and will help a lot actually.
Somehow the pandemic added a little fuel to the negative part of the social media or the electronic devices.
Yes.
So out of all the things that keep on going with the hectic schedule that you have, how do you manage to keep yourself so calm, composed, focused?
So yeah, so there are many pressures in life. I think every day is full of challenges. I think the one couple of mantras actually one can really follow in life to remain very calm in these kind of situations. I think one is that make sure that whenever the situation arises, one should not react to the situation. I think it is very important that we sit down and reflect on the situation. Reflect means that you are very consciously putting your thought process and trying to understand various dimensions of that problem or that situation, and not simply reflecting on it, because I think as we are the human beings, we will can always have some kind of an like our psychologists tell you that anytime some bias can creep into your behavior, unconsciously or consciously, which you are not careful about it. So I think one best thing is that adopt this posture of reflecting on the things rather than reacting to the things, and that brings the calmness and composure in the person's dealing with the things. Second thing, I think make sure that in your life, I think the failure is an acceptable norm actually. So never fear the failures. If you take that approach that failure will help you to learn some lessons, give you some learning, give you some understanding, I think you will find out and you will be accepting that failure with great strength. Otherwise, I think if you always have this fear of failure, then it becomes very difficult actually. So never have that fear kind of a thing. So it will bring that kind of an composure in your behavior. I think the third thing is that whenever you are in such difficult situations, particularly, I think I feel that the conversation is the best way to deal with those kind of situations. Get involved in the conversation, sort out these difficult postures or difficult handle the difficult situations through the good conversation, good feedback, meaningful, I think, discussion, and I think it will bring a lot of motivation, a lot of composure, and a lot of calmness in one's behavior. And I think see, whenever I feel any situation, I always feel that every situation is having some kind of a great learning value for you. So look for that, what is the new learning which is coming out of it. So I think if one does these 3-4 things, I think you will find out that you will handle the situation with a lot of good strengths. And so the not reacting, focus on reflecting, don't fear the failures, keep on learning, and see that what is the kind of a new learning experience you are getting. And I think have a lot of conversations in the situation, whosoever is involved in the situation. I think that's the best way to go forward.
Right, so I mean, at least we got to know and we got to hear what your mantra is regarding how to be calm, composed, because sitting on that chair, I can only imagine how it would be listening to and dealing with situations that come up day to day. But what I would definitely also like to add and know from you is there any role model you have, any leader whom you look up to, whom you have learned from in these years? Anyone that we can know of, and what you especially learned from them? Anything you can share with us regarding that?
Yeah, so I think there have been several, I would not say the kind of a role model, but I think you have been inspired by their experiences, you have been inspired by what they have done in the life. And so initial, I think, impressions in a very early life have been autobiographies of some of the great business leaders like Lee Iacocca, when he was the CEO of the Chrysler, and it's a beautiful book uh, discussing the kind of challenges he faced. Uh, uh, we have been doing a lot of case studies in our courses and our early part of life about the General Electrical Jack Welch as the CEO, what he has done in the company. So a lot of inspiration coming from the Steve Jobs and Bill Gates on certain dimensions in terms of like how to be a design thinker, how to have the focus, how to be innovative, uh, how to keep yourself engaged with the technology and things like that. So I think these influences have been there, but a lot of influences coming in bits and pieces from several leaders actually. Whenever we read a book, an autobiography of some of the great leaders in business, I think they give you some interesting lessons that what are the how to deal with the kind of a situation, how to deal with the people in the organization. Like Jack Welch, who was the I think the longest serving CEO of the General Motors, General Electricals, was one of the things was that he used to always say that as a CEO, my 70% of my job is HR job actually. So now I can relate to him that why he was saying that 70% of his job is the HR job, because gradually when you reach go in the up in the hierarchy in the organization, you have to deal a lot with the people in the organization. I think and it's not an easy game, and if your 70% of your time goes in dealing with the people, solving their problems, then you have to really be thorough on several dimensions. So I think the influence coming from several people. Also now these days, I think the inspirations coming from the new startups and some of the wonderful things the young generation is doing. So a whole lot of influences there.
So, along with the startups and the new ideas and the influence from different people, criticism is also very quick to come. So, anyone who has an innovative decision or an innovative idea, the criticism is something that is going to follow up with that. So, how does one deal with the criticism? With failure, yeah, we can introspect, we can take it in a way that we will learn something from it. What about criticism?
Yeah, no, I think you see that it also goes a lot with the culture of the organization where you are serving. If it's a healthy criticism in the sense that there's an open and transparent discussion happening on certain issues, and somebody is bringing in a different viewpoint on table, which not only gives an interesting perspective on the situation, but also helps to strengthen that intervention, whatever one may be looking for. So, but I think if this sometimes the criticism is part of the politics of the organization, which I think not in a healthy way, and somebody is criticizing just for the sake of criticism. That I think we should discourage. And one way I think to deal with that thing is that if you from the very beginning have a very transparent approach to deal with the things, you are able to minimize the consequences of somebody coming just out of the way to criticize you. If you are in an organization having a shared view, and everybody agrees to the shared view, everybody agrees to the assumptions on which we are moving forward, then I think the chances of that kind of an criticism is very less. And if it is an open, transparent way of dealing with the things and coming up with the new interventions, then I think the people are with you. And since you have taken the people along with you to implement that intervention or to make that particular change, then there's always the chances that it will not hamper your way of doing the things. So it is very important that I think the failure certainly will be part of the life actually, and you have to deal with the failures in a very positive way and looking them as an opportunity in future rather than fearing the failure. Uh, but if you have the shared vision with your people and you are going forward after having the transparent discussion with them, then the chances of any criticisms are quite minimum actually. And uh, some, I think, suggestions if they come on the way to improve your framework or improve your approach, improve your concept, I think that's always welcome.
Definitely agreeing to that point, sir. Very much agreeing to that point. But so one thing that I also want to get your attention for, or something that I wish to personally know, is that you also pointed out one point about having that inner child alive throughout your lifespan, to always be having that child of learners aspect. If I can just ask you, because now if we are also students, but still if someone asks us, we are like, we just want to go back to schools and have that 7:30 in the morning alarm and have the bus to catch and everything. Now, since you are in this position, if you had that one thing or some one point that you would like to go back in your college days, in your school life, what would it be, that new hobby or new point that you would like to learn, relearn, or maybe relive? Any incident that you could just share with us, any point that you could just ponder upon?
Uh, no, I think you see that if you develop the habit of reading, actually, I think that came as, I think, one of the most cherished thing in my college life was my library and the interaction and discussions in the canteen over a cup of coffee or breakfast or lunch time kind of a thing. So I think it's very important to develop that habit of reading. And I think, see, when you read a book, you are basically reading somebody's experience of maybe 5 or 6 or 10, 15 years of experience at one go in couple of days time, or sometimes maybe couple of weeks time. So one has to really look at that, how enriching it is to go through somebody's experience and somebody's work, uh, which I think that person would have devoted significantly long number of years on that particular thing. Uh, I think the second thing is that keep the things live in your life, particularly asking the question why actually. I think all the three questions are very important: what, how, and why, kind of a thing. How is also very important, that how the things happen actually. So you should have always the curiosity around these questions. What is this thing? Why is that? And how does it work? Kind of a thing. So if you always make these three words your friend actually, what, why, how, and why, I think you become a kind of a learning person all your life actually. So maybe at some point in time in our lives when we were under the pressure of, like, say, exams and things like that, we sacrifice some of the curiosity. But I think it is very important that while you are in college, you really strengthen that part in a very significant way. In fact, last week's chronicle, which I share with my faculty, Akshay had shared a note on that, these three questions, why it is very critical to focus on why. Many times the students are able to answer the questions of what and how, but this why question, I think, many times remains unanswered. And why is the question which I think creates a lot of curiosity, and why is the question that children most of the time ask, right? So I think that's where, how do you keep that child alive in you to ask this question of why?
I believe myself to be a kind of student who wants to try out everything.
Yeah.
So looking at your profile, your introduction, that we did some research on you, we'll be honest about that. So I noticed that you have tried everything, be it from an NGO to accommodations to working for the ministry. But I couldn't figure out one thing. An NGO is something that is completely set apart from it. It's in basic rural healthcare. How did that come to be?
Uh, no, I think if you look at my profile, I have been I have been spending some time on researching the area of health actually. If you look at my papers and citations, they are highest in that area actually. So I have been working on some of the aspects of the health, and I think 2-3 questions which have been always in fact posing some kind of a challenge to us was that how does this health systems work actually, and why we cannot have the better health systems in the country. So a lot of my work with the Ministry of Health in India and with various organizations, WHO and European Commission and various other agencies, has focused on some of these interesting questions in the area of health. And my other area has been the corporate finance area as well. In health, I have been also focusing a lot on the financing aspects of the health actually. How does one support one's healthcare? How does one finance healthcare in the country? So, so one of my students, I was the adjunct faculty at University of North Carolina, and one of my students in that program was working with the UNICEF for long number of years, and one day he suddenly decided that he is going to leave the job and trying to work out the primary healthcare model in the remote areas in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, Udaipur area. So he set up this institution called Basic Health Services, and I think the first thing and maybe second or third thing was that he called me to be on the board of that organization. So I was very happy that first of all learning that he was having a very encouraging career in UNICEF. He was a United States, this what is that? UNICEF, United Nations employee full time, having a very good job, and he left this job, and he's also by profession doctor. So, and I very when I heard that, I just was very impressed by his approach, and gladly accepted the being on the board. So that's my association with them. Initially, I think looking at how they were approaching the healthcare in the remote areas in the country, and some wonderful work which they have done. And still, I think in a very limited way remain to be associated with them, given my current assignment. I think I'm not able to devote that much of time, but I always make them the promise that one day I may also leave my job and join full time with them. So, but I think it is again the curiosity part of it, that how and why we cannot offer these kind of services, what will make best intervention, in the remote areas, how to organize the healthcare. I think these are some of the very big challenges which we face in India. And he is on the way to really create some interesting approach to the primary healthcare, uh, which I think we have not succeeded much in the country.
Having known you as our VC, now we would love to know you for a person that you are. So we have prepared a little rapid fire.
Sure, sure.
So I am pretty sure that you are aware with the rules. So the first thing that pops up, you have to answer in that. So we'll start.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So favorite fictional movie, series, or any book?
I think the books, two books which have impressed me most, The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. I hope I'm
Yes, sir.
pronouncing his name correctly. And the second book is The Fountainhead by Annie Rand. I don't know how many of you have read, but I will certainly recommend reading Alchemist. It's a beautiful, beautiful book.
Favorite movie?
Uh, uh, Very difficult to say that what is my favorite movie. Um, um,
Or a guilty pleasure movie that you can watch again and again?
yeah, I think some of these fictional movies with a lot of some kind of a psychological thriller and a lot of, like, say for example, the Sarkar kind of a thing, or Godfather, for example. So I watched Godfather and Sarkar. I have watched it a couple of times, 3, 4 times, and every time when I'm a little bit bored, so then I may just put up some Godfather Part 1 or Part 2 to re-watch that film.
That's very interesting to know. Your favorite song?
Many of them, I think one song which I think whenever I am with my students and my colleagues, I always have this an old song by Hemant Kumar. eh, ये हंसता हुआ कारवां जिंदगी का न जाने पूछो चला है कहाँ तमन्ना यही है कि हम साथ साथ चलते रहें और न भूले कभी ये सफ़र. So I think it's a very beautiful old song of Hemant Da. So ये हंसता हुआ कारवां. So this is all we are in a कारवां and moving, and I think we have to uh, move with lot of happiness, joy and enjoyment, and keep on learning, and I'm sure that at some point in time we will all reach to our destinations.
What is one of your most cherished memory of college days?
Yeah, I mentioned that I think the most cherished moments have been in the library. Fortunately, I was in a particularly college days. I graduated from Hansraj College of University of Delhi. So we had, I think, one of the fantastic libraries there. So I still have not found that kind of a cozy, comfortable place with full of books all around anywhere, and the kind of an ambience it had created. And second, of course, is I think the interaction with my friends in discussions, deliberations, debates we used to have in the canteen particularly, and after lunch hours.
So what is that one hobby that you have which on a very hectic, stressful day you follow it to unwind?
So I play sitar. It's an Indian classical instrument. So I've been, I think, since my early college days. I still practice a little bit every day, and whenever it is possible, like we have some holidays, so spend a little bit more time on that. And still taking the formal lessons on my classical learning of that music.
So it was wonderful knowing you regarding this perspective. But one thing that has completely got my focus upon right now is that all of us are right now writing exams. I myself have my exams going on in this week. But then it's one of the most traditional education system that we have, and we are relying on it for years now. But according to you, if I can just get your idea, do you think that this thing is going to continue for all the ages coming forward? Or is there something like we are always going to be tested on our memory, the retention power, our writing skills, everything? I agree that matters. But then in the future, do you believe there's some change that is going to be evident in the
I
exams?
think the things are changing. In fact, we have a very famous framework. We call it Bloom's taxonomy. Uh, it it tells every teacher that when they are teaching the students and or evaluating the students or examining the students, what they need to focus on. And it has the hierarchy of learning skills like understanding, knowing, understanding, applying, analyzing, and discovering or creating kind of a thing. It has a hierarchy of those skills, learning skills, which we need to focus on. I think for a long period of time, I think teachers have been focused on only the knowing and understanding part. I think they have been less focusing on the applying, analyzing, creating kind of an learning skills. I think we are focusing particularly at NMIMS University. We are having what we call assurance of learning and outcome-based education system, where we are trying to tell every teacher that look at these learning skills which we need to focus on. It should not be just the understanding and knowing, because knowing and understanding perhaps just focuses on your memory and memorizing things and rote learning kind of a thing, right? So it is changing, and I think maybe down the year 5-7 years we will see quite a major change in that area. I think we will also see a trend of moving away from the pure examination system to the feedback system. You see that today in our education system, the feedback is not very prominent. Like say if I have done some project or if I have done some exam, the teacher does not tell me that where I went wrong actually, what is the learning for me for that. So I think I also see in future the students will be more demanding about the feedback. They will ask the question that where am I wrong actually, and how can I do it correctly kind of a thing. I think we are also trying to shift towards a more feedback kind of a system rather than pure examination kind of a system. It's a journey which we have to travel. It requires a lot of change in the mindset in the teachers and the way we deal with the things. But I'm sure that as we go forward, all the teachers are today, I think, appreciating this concept of assurance of learning, outcome-based education. Like each course would have course outcomes, and you will measure the effectiveness of the course against those outcomes kind of a thing. And I'm sure that the kind of a pattern which we have experienced in the past, it is going to be very different and change in future.
So your answer definitely gives me optimism for the future regarding the exams perspective. And you did highlight one point where we have something that is very different from the other universities here at NMIMS. So we have highlighted from your answer the point of NMIMS regarding exams. But what is that another one thing from NMIMS that you like the most?
I think the most fascinating thing about the NMIMS is the people around it, including the students. So I think we have a brilliant trust and brilliant management, top management. We have a great teachers on our faculty, and we have a great students who have made it sure that the NMIMS is their place of learning, and we are all here together and along with them, trying to see that we meet everybody's aspirations. So that's our basic objective.
So we do hope to carry the light of NMIMS forever. So what is that one thought you would like to leave with the audience? Like that one point they should always remember?
Yeah, I think I would like to say that, you see that today we are in this world which is what we call the VUCA world. I don't know whether you have heard this term. V stands for volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous world, right? So this is called the VUCA world. So I think this term was coined in 80s actually, and my view is that if this was not coined in 80s, perhaps it would have been coined now these days, the way the pandemic has happened and things like that. So one is the VUCA word, which is volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. Always remember that you are in that word actually. So if you are living in a VUCA word, uncertain word, complex word, ambiguous word, so how do you need to develop yourself? So there are, I think, the 4 attitude tests for each one of them. So you need to develop very strong attitudes to deal with this VUCA word. Because this VUCA word, you not only face the external VUCA word, but you also face this inner VUCA word. Because within yourself, there will be a lot of ambiguity, uncertainty, what to do and what not to do. So first thing is that to deal with the volatility, always reflect and not react, right? That is I think I also have mentioned it in my discussion previously. Second is to deal with the uncertainty, never get gripped by the fear, always take some risks actually in life, right? Because uncertainty has this dynamics of forcing you to become fearful, always keep on fearing what will happen. So you have to not get into the trap of fearfulness, and you must take some risks. And complexity you can handle only when you have the great deal of clarity in your mind about the kind of situation, about the different variables, about the different factors which are affecting that particular situation. Have that clarity in the mind that how the different components are getting affected, right? And last is the ambiguity. How do you deal with the ambiguity? There is going to be a lot of ambiguity around you. The best way is to spend some time on meditation, contemplation, thinking, and sit very calmly, do some breathing exercises to deal with the ambiguity. So these are my what I call the 4 attitude tests to deal with the current times and times which we are going to face in future. I hope each one of you will take these 4 attitudes forward and strengthen them to deal with these situations.
Definitely, sir. I mean, all of us have been very patiently listening to you regarding all that points. Everything we have learned is going to be always remembered. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. I personally learned some very valuable points from this discussion about purposeful learning, introspection, taking in healthy criticism. Everything like those points are very essential for us students, especially when we are going to be entering the corporate world, right? Maybe just tomorrow itself. So it's very important for us to be learning these points, and I'm definitely sure I'm going to be adding these in my daily life.
In conclusion, I would really like to thank our guest, Mr. Ramesh Bhat, sir, for taking for sparing out the time from out of his such an hectic schedule and sharing his views with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Nice interacting with you all. Great questions. And congratulations to all of you. And keep this activity ongoing and have a lot of learning on the way.
And so lastly, and to the audience, I would like to especially thank our director, Dr. Akshay Malhotra, sir, for giving us this wonderful opportunity. And also I would like to thank our audience for patiently listening to the entire conversation. We'll meet you next week with another session with another wonderful speaker. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.